My favorite videos are those of Gene Vincent performing before he was on the Milk album. He produced a few more as well, and they are really lively videos. Imagine this. On July 21, 2025, Bob Dylan takes the stage in Newport, Rhode Island, as the music industry waits in suspense. Dylan, who is well known for his enigmatic lyrics and secretive demeanor, breaks his silence in a way that nobody anticipated. At last, he reveals Patti Smith. In a matter of seconds, the crowd's whisper turns into a roar that is captured on live broadcast and spreads over social media. The stakes are bigger now than they have ever been. A decades-long tale of strife, adoration, and downright rivalry is exposed, tearing open old wounds. Greenwich Village, a hotbed of lyrical protest and folk revival in the early 1970s, is likely familiar to you. In late 1973, Dylan and a young Patti Smith meet at a smoke-filled bistro on McDougal Street. Patti Smith is holding her handwritten Zen. A tenuous bond is formed between them as a result of their mutual admiration for Dylan's early work. But a feud simmers beneath the surface. Dylan, guarding his creative heritage, looks tiredly at Smith's budding fame. In the faint light, Smith's ambition crackles like electricity, and she refuses to back down. Imagine two storms coming together in a body of open water. Smith's insurgent punk poetry contrasts with Dylan's folk blues roots. By 1975, there are cryptic phrases in interviews that imply treachery, scathing glances at award ceremonies, and backstage rumors circulating over set lists. Dylan's inner circle scoffs at the idea of an upstart overshadowing the master, and Smith's debut album, Horses, is compared to Dylan's favorite songs. Like a fault line preparing to rumble, the tension builds subtly. Imagine this. On July 21, 2025, among Newport's wooden pavilions, Dylan builds tension before revealing his shocking revelation. He accuses Patti Smith of stealing his imagery in her early verses, referring to them as borrowed thunder and citing well-known motifs that he says came from his notebooks in 1965. Fans burst into a split shout, shuddering through the amphitheater. Dylan's fight for authenticity is praised by some. Others condemn it as resentment from an aging legend. Social media feeds light up, phones blur in the twilight, and contentious discussions erupt online. Rumors circulating backstage allude to months of growing stress. While Smith's supporters maintain that art is fueled by influence, Dylan's camp pointed out echoes in Smith's songs. Now, as critics queue up think pieces, festival directors and record labels rush to make pronouncements. Dylan's disclosure, however, rekindles interest in Smith at the precise time of accusation. Her devoted followers are banding together to preserve her legacy, put the music on hold, and performed the majority of the songs live. Actually, it wasn't until we had a lot of stuff. We captured the sound of these two idols clashing, which is louder than any song and serves as a reminder to the world that the shock waves from a collision between legends are felt well beyond a single stage. Like her stage appearance, Patti Smith had a passionate love life. She married Fred Sonic Smith in 1976, a merger of two electric souls amidst the gritty glitter of Detroit. However, when Fred's struggle with addiction came to light while on tour, the honeymoon ended. Patti writing lyrics at his bedside while crying, and nights spent hauling him from filthy motel rooms. Jealousy flared by 1979. There were broken pieces of whiskey glass and bruised pride from a midnight altercation in a Chicago room. However, their creative relationship persisted, giving rise to Birdland's eerie riff in 1980. Patti pinned strong liner notes rather than apologies that year after uproar was sparked by press rumors of her brief affair with the Stones' roadie. Her art was inspired by other brief relationships, such as her brief affair with poet Gregory Corso in 1982, which ended in tragedy. Patti's compositions were infused with real intensity, and her resolve was strengthened by each affair and betrayal, demonstrating that her love and feud were linked themes. Imagine this. A dimly illuminated backstage hallway at Manhattan's CBGB circa 1977. Rock reviewers who tried to trivialize her talent were openly challenged by a vengeful Patti Smith, whose eyes were flaming as she stormed past shocked Roys while holding her scorching cream editorial. When she singled out a prominent New York Times writer and accused him of using his pen like a guillotine to cut off genuine talent with thoughtless criticism. The ink had just begun to dry. Word got around like wildfire. This headline appeared in every major newspaper: Patti Smith versus the critics. Before long, Wu's DJs were reading her lyrics live while their own voices shook in rebellion. However, that was just the start. By 1980, Berlin's Hansa studios were using dimmed stage lights during mid-show rehearsals. A suggested sound adjustment caused tensions to rise. Smith insisted on visceral drumming and gritty guitars. Her bandmates pushed for tighter hooks and crisper riffs because they wanted to be heard on the radio. Voices erupted to yells late one night under a flickering fluorescent bulb. Lenny Kaye, the guitarist, lunged at Smith's producer while gritting his teeth. Patti struck back, causing a loud crash that reverberated down the hallway as she knocked over an amplifier. Smith's palm was cut, and Kaye's brow was inflamed after the altercation, wounds from a creative split that are physical. Rumors of the band's disbandment spread. Tour dates were canceled, and fans questioned whether they would ever see Horses perform live again. Beyond music, Patti was at differences with photographer Robert Mapplethorpe, who was her closest confidant. Once a lovely fusion of verse and image, their partnership fell apart due to control and envy. Smith served as the muse for Mapplethorpe's daring Polaroids, which omitted her strong demeanor. At an avant-garde gallery opening in Soho in late 1978, Smith was furious and ripped through the display, throwing a champagne flute against the white walls and scattering its shards at her feet as she felt deceived. The event. Insiders knew it pointed to deeper wounds of ego and artistic ownership, but it made front-page rumors seem like a rock star tantrum. Even the art world was not immune. Smith and poet Allen Ginsberg got into a heated public argument in 1982 when Smith claimed that Ginsberg had appropriated his Buddhist-inspired poetry for his own political advantage. She tore a page from his notebook and threw it into the audience as she rushed the podium in the middle of his recital at a poetry event in San Francisco. Surprised, Ginsberg watched as Smith's outline dwindled under a cloud of alcohol and gasps. Admirers praised her unwavering passion, while others referred to her as the punk poet of provocation. Every argument and controversy turned into a chapter and verse in Patti's story. Lifeblood for her legend and fuel for her lyrics. With every battle, she came out stronger and more determined than before. Her disobedience created an unshakable connection with admirers who valued genuineness over ornamentation. Imagine living in a small row house in the rough south side of Chicago in the late 1960s. The bustle of her parents' modest auto parts business is all around Patti Smith as she grows up. Grease-stained hands and the bustle of working-class life shaped her early years. Father Grant, a dry-witted, stoic mechanic, is adamant about discipline. Beverly, a loving mother who struggles with her own fears, manages to maintain a precarious equilibrium between fear and hope. Here, in a shared bedroom with midnight whispers and peanut butter sandwiches on the doorstep, Patti and her younger brother Todd develop a close friendship. Now fast forward to 1994. In his Greenwich Village studio, Todd, a young visual artist, collapses due to tremors that are later identified by medical professionals as multiple sclerosis. After experiencing the bright lights of the globe, Patti returns to New Jersey without hesitation. With its bright windows, easels piled high with empty canvases, and jars of oil and turpentine paints, she turns her late mother's spare room into a temporary haven. As she balances being Todd's nurse, cook, and confidant, giving him spoonfuls of soup in the morning, reading him poems and softly whispering to him at night, and watching his world shrink day by day, Patti's music takes a back seat for 18 months. Her soul bears new scars from those protracted restless nights. But a steel resolution emerges behind the fatigue. Then, with the icy certainty of a funeral march, July 2, 2004 arrives. At 39, Todd's struggle comes to an end when his hands leave hers and the hospital's machinery stops working. Patti's heartbeat reverberates through the tiled walls as she stands in the hospital hallway. her palms clenched together. She is broken by the loss. She withdraws even more, postponing tours and gazing at unfinished lyric sheets while she struggles with pain and shame. However, Patti's spirit of a fighter awakens. She invites both rock stars and up-and-coming painters to her benefit painting auction in the Chelsea neighborhood of New York in 2006 in order to raise money for MS research. Imagine a velvet-draped grand hall with Todd's incomplete sketches hanging next to pieces influenced by Jackson Pollock. Every sale is an homage and a tiny triumph over hopelessness. Her determination is strengthened by this act of resistance. Patti declines to let mourning define her. Interviews in the years to follow reveal hints of her personal suffering. Friends remember her unwavering laughter, even on the hardest days, while caregivers remember her passionate protectiveness. However, social media trolls accuse her of self-promotion, casting doubt on the authenticity of her philanthropy. Ever unyielding, Patti responds to them with actions rather than words. To make sure Todd's name is remembered in every budding artist's brushstroke, she establishes an annual award for children of MS patients at Rutgers University. Patti's personal life continues to be an open wound and a source of inspiration despite all of the disputes and scandals. Evidence that some souls find the brightest illumination from the darkest shadows. Imagine a Chicago amphitheater in the summer of 2025 that is completely booked out. As Patti Smith stands in the middle of the stage, a lone figure against a sea of flashing lights. The final notes of Dylan's Bombshell continue to reverberate. With steel blue eyes that mirror years of suffering and victory, she inhales the crowd's united gasp. Imagine a troubled phoenix emerging from the ashes. A tapestry of bravery and suffering has been weaved across Patti's life. She turned to writing after Todd's death in July 2004. Although she received the National Book Award for her memoir, Just Kids 2010, there were rumors that she had exaggerated her relationship with Robert Mapplethorpe. She was accused of exaggeration by literary critics. Fans questioned whether Patti's recollections were as unvarnished as her songs. Smith encountered both admiration and skepticism while touring bookstores in Union Square, New York City, and Royce Hall, Los Angeles. This is evidence that every confession engenders controversy. Patti, however, would not conceal. She returned to the same location where Dylan first noticed her in 2016 as the main act at the Newport Folk Festival. Her performance was praised by critics as a career high point. Some complained that she didn't have the gritty voice of a young woman. Rumors of backstage altercations with event officials about set timing quickly surfaced. Although the accounts differed, they all concurred on one point. Patti battled for every moment of attention. Her charitable endeavors stoked controversy even more. She invited musicians from a variety of genres to perform at Carnegie Hall in 2018 as part of a benefit event for Syrian refugees. Some said she overshadowed up-and-coming campaigners, while others praised her humanitarian heart. The subject of whether a music star actually understood geopolitics was featured in headlines from local Amsterdam news agencies, sparking heated internet discussions. Dylan's fracture point followed. Music historians traced traces of their half-spoken feud back to 1999 when Smith covered Dylan's visions of Johanna. As the world reeled from his Newport revelation, her interpretation was praised as revolutionary, but Dylan's followers privately resented it for what they saw as a lack of reverence. As Dylan's disclosure reverberates today, fans are piecing together decades of unsaid friction by unearthing rare recordings, journal notes, and live bootlegs. However, Patti's lasting legacy is hidden beneath the controversy. She has been at the intersection of art, poetry, and protest since her debut gallery exhibition at Max's Kansas City in 1975 and her 2007 entry into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Her music has become as iconic as her life, which was filled with scandals, feuds, and intense loss. One picture remains as this chapter comes to a close: Patti, her palm over her heart, her eyes sparkling in the marquee lights. The world is waiting. Will these two titans of music ever get back together? Or will their competition continue to stoke the very creativity that neither of them can control? Only the subsequent verse will.